Late Night's 8th anniversary special. From the Universal Amphitheater in Los Angeles, it's the greatest comedy moments from 8 years of Late Night. Sit back and get comfortable for David Letterman's 8th anniversary special.
Plus, for the kids, free balloons.
Let the festivities begin Thursday.
Thanks for staying up later. Perhaps you do not recognize him, at least not immediately, without a surgical glove attached to his head. But this, of course, is Howie Mandel, Dr. Wayne Fiscus from St. Elsewhere. I read somewhere where you said that that role gave you credibility. And you were very good in it, and obviously it was a much acclaimed series. But why does a comic need credibility?
Well, a comic, I think everybody needs credibility, but a comic needs... I was a stand-up comic first before I got that series. So being a stand-up comic, I didn't get involved in the acting roles that I would have liked to have been involved in, you know. And I enjoy acting as much as I enjoy stand-up. And in order to pursue acting and be a stand-up, I don't know, it was always much harder. So being involved in St. Elsewhere gave me the credibility as an actor to now if my agent calls, or they do call me for dramatic pieces, and I get the calls that I had never gotten before.
When you first thought of yourself as a performer, what did you envision yourself as?
I had never thought of myself as a performer. All through school, I was never in a school play. I've said this before, everything that I ever got punished for, evicted for, beat up for, chased for, is what I get paid for today. So I never pursued it. You know, growing up in suburban, I'm from Toronto, Canada, it wasn't anything, you didn't think of show business. I would imagine in suburban America anywhere, you don't think of show business. I just went down to California as a tourist on a business trip and happened into this. So I never thought of myself as a performer. And I went up on stage because my friends pushed me to go up on stage because it happened to be amateur night and a guy offered me a job.
You're at a comedy club and it's just...
At the Comedy Store. It was Monday night, which is amateur night.
Right.
My friend said, I went there as a tourist to see the show. Not enough people had signed up. My friend said, go on up. So I went up to entertain my friends, and there was a guy in the audience by the name of George Foster, who was the producer of a comedy game show called Make Me Laugh.
And also the left fielder, oddly enough, for the Cincinnati Reds and later the New York Mets in a bizarre twist.
And then he went on to produce Make Me Laugh, of course. So he offered me that job, and then I said, yeah, I'm a comic now.
And on Make Me Laugh, all right, let's suppose that I'm the contestant on Make Me Laugh.
Okay, let's imagine if I will.
What a brilliant scenario. No one's ever tried this on you before.
Well, it's fun to use your imagination.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm dead set. I'm going to win money.
Right.
If you don't make me laugh.
Right.
I got to believe Jonathan Winters, okay? If Charlie Chaplin comes toddling out from behind the curtain, nobody can make me laugh if I don't want to laugh.
Right. So, is there a question?
Yeah. Prove me wrong.
No,
Prove me wrong.
Oh, you're telling me to make you laugh?
Yeah, make me laugh.
Well, this is the perfect opportunity to do my funniest shtick possible. No, but the point was, if there was somebody like you on the show that didn't want to laugh, it would have been better. It is better because there was a studio audience of 500 people, so as long as they were laughing, that was great. And as long as hopefully the people at home were laughing was great, that was great. But if the guy laughed within 30 seconds, then you didn't have a chance on national television to show your stuff. So it really wasn't better to make somebody laugh. It was better not to make them laugh. You got more exposure. I learned that after. You know, I was trying real hard to make people laugh, and I didn't make a lot of people laugh. And a lot of people didn't laugh was the point. I mean, 1 out of 5 people laughed after 35 seconds. You had 60 seconds. So, and I always felt bad for that. And then I realized I got my break off of it, and I didn't think I was very good at the game. But more people had a longer opportunity to see what I can do.
How painful was it when a comic came out there and not only couldn't make the contestant laugh, it wasn't in the contestant's interest to laugh, but not too many titters from the audience either. So you're watching the guy just die.
Well, I think there's nothing more painful than watching a comedian die, but there is something more painful than watching a comedian die. It's being that comedian that's dying. And I've been there. I think anybody in this business has been there. I was the opening act for Diana Ross shortly after I began, and I played Caesar's Palace. I had done Make Me Laugh, and I did a Merv Griffin, and she saw me on there, and she took me to Caesar's Palace. And you mentioned before the glove on the head. The audience didn't want to see me. The lights would go down, the people would roar, you'd hear, ladies and gentlemen, Caesar's Palace is proud to present an evening with Diana Ross. And they would roar, and if you listened real close, you could hear, and now Howie Mandel. And I had no exposure, no nothing. I walked out on stage, people were yelling, get the hell off the stage. And I stood there like an idiot. You know, there's something about telling a joke and it doesn't work. That's bad. But inserting your head in a rubber glove, just standing there with a rubber glove inserted on your head and having it inflated, and just hearing silence in a room, it's just, there's a long way to go to just get out of that. I never got out of that. But
And you also have to figure that in Vegas or in Atlantic City, a large portion of the audience is not exactly Howie Mandel's demographic.
no, in fact, one night, well, now I play Atlantic City and Vegas a lot, and people who
But
like
you're the
me
headliner, so they come to see you.
So they come to see me. But in fact, on one night with Diana Ross, she had an electronics convention, rent out the whole room. It was from Japan. There wasn't even English-speaking people. And that was one of my better nights. I seemed to do well with them. I had
a lot of sight gags, I'm guessing.
You know what I had? And I got in trouble for it. I had a little thing that made I'm trying to figure out, like passing wind. I had a noise thing that did that. I just did that into the microphone, and they roared, and I did that. That wind noise is kind of an international...
Universal comic winner.
It is. Well, it's just a way of communicating around the world. It's just a beautiful thing. It is. They understood that. I would talk...
This is, oddly enough, this is the universal symbol for too much sushi.
Yes, I would imagine it is.
So then what happens?
I remember the first night, because when you're playing Las Vegas, you have to... the time is very important. I was to do 20 minutes, and she was to do an hour, and they want it exactly in time, because the idea is not to keep the people in the showroom, but to get them out into the casino, because that's where they make the real money. So they told, now I wear a watch, but at that time I never wore a watch, and the guy said, you can't do 19 minutes, you can't do 21 minutes, I want you to do 20 minutes. This is the first night. I said, well, how am I gonna know? And I performed in front of the curtain, so I said, I'll tell you what, I came up with a brainstorm. Why don't you have somebody stand right behind the curtain, and at 18 minutes go behind the curtain. I'll hear that. That'll be great. And I went out there the first night, and the curtains, the lights came on, and I started doing my shtick. And it was silence. There was absolute silence. I was soaked within 30. That's what happens. You just get wet when nothing was happening. I was soaked, and it seemed like I was on there for like 2 hours had passed. And then I hear, which is great. And I do my best bit. And I say, good night. And I turn around. It was like one of those bad where you can't find the crack in the curtain. And I was trying to find it. And finally I found it, but it wouldn't open. There's some guy behind the curtain holding it closed going, you have another 15 minutes. You have another 15 minutes. And I couldn't believe it. I turned around, and 15 minutes of absolute hell, the worst 15 minutes of my life. I stood out there, and I went out. And what had happened was, it was just some woman in high heels walking by 5 minutes after I was on. I was just waiting for that sound. My ear was just tuned into that sound, and I just wanted to get off the stage. Diana was so nice to me. You know, she loved the act. She would sit there. I'd hear her giggling from the side. I was hired for 1 week. She held me over for another 2 weeks. She said, you know, Howie, come in the dressing room. I came in the dressing room. She said, good news. You're held over for another 2 weeks. And I said, thank you.
Your mom, I guess, is pretty excited about that, so she comes to visit.
Oh, yeah. My mom came to visit, and it actually turned out to be a horrible experience for her. She loves Diana Ross, and she came and saw me. And I had told her about the show, and I think most people know about Diana Ross's show. One of the biggest parts of Diana Ross's show is reach out and touch somebody's hand. Do you know that?
Yeah.
She says, reach out and touch somebody's hand. And she has a whole audience, like, join hands.
They're
and everybody
swaying.
just swaying. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And I think it's gonna help peace throughout the world. It's gonna be a big thing. Anyway, but that's what she does. And I told my mom, you know, and it's kind of touching if you're there. And so my mom sits at a table. And from the moment she got there, she had told me, and I didn't know, and I've been watching my mom to see how much she enjoyed the show. The guy sitting next to her is like drilling up his nose. He's just picking. He's just, I don't know, I didn't know that it went that deep. You know, it's like behind his eye. You can see his eye like bulging out the front of his head.
Ooh.
But my mom is like fixated in watching this, knowing that the next number is going to be reach out and touch somebody's hand, you know. And she wants to make this world a better place if she can. But there's just some. You just got to say no sometimes. And I'll never forget, because I didn't know. I was mad because I got my mom like a front center seat, and she's going, everybody join hands. And there's like one hole in the middle of the room where my mom's like trying to look busy. with this hand, because this guy's going, oh, here's the song, reach out. Come on. My mom's just like buried in someplace else. So she didn't have it. She loved this song, but you know, I think everybody has to do their part to make this a better world if they can.
Stay tuned. Later, we'll return in a moment.
Back with Howie Mandel. What kind of class clown were you growing up in Toronto? Were you outrageous?
I was never really a class clown per se. I mean, I broke out from the makeup, so I was never. I used the word extravaganzas. I am shy. I really am when I'm off stage or not doing a television program. So I never really spoke out in class. The last thing I got thrown out of school for was hiring a company to put an addition onto the library. So I would do things like that. My favorite show in the whole world was Candid Camera, and I used to live it. I used to want to be Howie Funt so bad. And so I hired a company to put an addition onto the... I didn't hire them. I was getting 3 estimates because if I was going to do a practical joke, I had to be responsible about it. So these people were out there measuring and...
So how did you represent yourself? As the superintendent of schools or what?
They didn't ask. I said, I'm Howie from, you know, this particular school, and could you come out and just give me a price? People don't say, well, who are you? Are you a student? Because we've had 3 calls from students about the addition. No, they don't. They don't ask. They just came out. And the principal noticed, went out, asked them what they were doing. They told him what he was doing, and he asked who authorized it. They told him who authorized it because I had given my name, and because I had to give my name in order to get him out. And they called me into the office, along with my parents. And we sat in the office. I'll never forget that day, sitting there with the principal and my parents. And he said, you know, your son, Howard, I was Howard, whenever they were angry at me. Howard hired a company to put an addition onto the library. And, like, what were they supposed to say? They're sitting there, like, tight-lipped, trying to be, like,
right.
Good parents. Like, we told him never to do that. That's the one thing we told him never to do. But I was constantly doing things like that. I also had a job at the Canadian National Exhibition.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm. It's right next to the old exhibition stadium where the Blue Jays used to play.
That's right. Of course, you would know it, because sports happen nearby.
Right.
So, so I worked at the Canadian National Exhibition, and I worked on a ride. I was in a booth. I was in show business when I was younger. I was 15, 16 years old. I worked in a booth, and it was one of those rides where you sit in it, and you strap in, and you fly around. One of those
And you
rides.
get sick to your stomach.
Yeah.
One of those, like, all your equilibrium is off.
What other kind of ride is there besides the kind they strap you in and you go around? Yes, you get sick.
Yeah.
And the sicker you get, the better it is. Right? People always, oh, I just about puked. Let's go on again. But I was like that, too. But anyways, I worked on this ride, and it was called the Vegas Chase. And I'd sit in the booth and say to all the kids, you want to go faster? And they'd all scream, yes. And I'd say, you want to go faster? And they'd scream, yes. And I'd say, okay, make sure that the orange shoulder harness over your left shoulder is done up securely. We're going upside down in 10 seconds. Now, there was no orange shoulder harness, and it didn't go upside down. Every kid would be going, I can't find it. Stop it! Stop it! So I didn't work there real long, but I had fun. I had fun. I was out of there.
Can I have a seat, please? How about that band? Can I have that C again? C. Thank you, Mr. Maestro. This is a song my mommy sings to me when I'm afraid in the dark. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. And if that mockingbird don't sing, I'm gonna drop his feathers and whip back.
What do you think the psychology of a comedian is? Is it
Good question.
Is there some kind of universal thing among comedians, or is it different from person to person?
I don't. The psychology of a comedian. I don't know. I can only speak for myself, but I mean, I craved to be the center of attention. I didn't know I wanted to do it in show business, but I've always wanted to be the center of attention. And there is no better thrill for me in this world than standing on a stage and having 4,000 or 5,000 people there to see you, and there's nobody else involved, and there you are, the center of attention. So this is like, you know, doing what I do is like a dream come true.
I read a quote from you where you said it's a strange thing where a large portion of your self-definition is predicated on getting approval from people you don't know and will never know. And if you're not careful, maybe that becomes more important to you than the legitimate assessment of people who are in a position to know you.
Well, I think that I read somewhere that one of the biggest fears people have in life is public speaking. It's hard to get up in front of a group of people and speak. And I think public joking is even harder than that. I mean, because if you just stand up there and you speak and they applaud at the end, then you've spoken. I think as a comedian, even more than a musician, you need a response every 30 seconds. And if you don't get that response, you know it. And we have the need as stand-up comics to be loved and adored by thousands of people we don't know, whereas the average man can go home, and if he has his wife and his children love him, that's fine. He doesn't have to put himself in this kind of precarious position to be loved by people that really don't matter to him, or people that he knows. Yeah. And I certainly have that need. I know that if I get a standing ovation from 4,000 people and somebody backstage says, you know, one guy, you know, I know somebody who just hated the show, that will bother me for a week.
Are you better at dealing with it?
Not at all. No, I'm horrible at dealing with it. I mean, you know, they say don't read your reviews. If I get a negative review, you don't have to read your reviews. You have friends to phone you and tell you, did you read that review? So I don't handle it real well. I kind of, if it's in the city that I happen to be in, I'll hide and not come out till I can leave that city. No, I'm real bad.
Because it's strange, one bad one out of, let's say, 20. 19 good ones, one bad one. The bad one sticks in your head, right?
Well, the good one, you're in this business because you want the good one, and the good one is you just assume that what you're doing, you're up there because you think it's good. So that just, you know, a good one is great, and you can gloat on that for an hour. But if I got a bad one, I mean, I'll never forget it. And I can't face people. I always think that if I read the paper, I mean, if you had 4,000 people at the show, how many people read any paper? There's millions of people that are reading the negative. And I just can't. I'm not real good with that. See, you just depressed me. Did I mention my Showtime special?
We were going to. Would that be Hooray for Howie Wood?
How did you know?
I don't know, it just came to me.
February 3rd on Showtime?
February 3rd on Showtime.
Am I shamelessly plugging something?
Plug away.
February 3rd on Showtime. I did a stand-up special in Philadelphia recently, and I'm real proud of it, and that's why I want to plug it. I shot it around at the Valley Forge Music Fair, and most of my act is improvisation, so it was great. I deal with the audience a lot, and they surrounded me. I mean, they surrounded me. It sounds like they were angry. No, it's in the round, and they sit around in the round. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm saying, but help me, if you will.
I thought you were doing splendidly.
Was I?
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm saying now. I'm saying in the round. I'm stuck on the round thing.
I know this sounds terrible, but hell, it's not a dinner show. I went into this room and I watched life. I watched a birth. If you've never seen it, it's amazing, but you become loopy. You become nuts. So my mind's not working properly. And then I got to thinking, God forbid, if my wife would have on the table, I wouldn't have known what was going on. I would have looked at that pile and thought, oh my God, look at my son! You gotta love him anyhow. Honey, he looks just like you.
Back with Howie Mandel. What are some episodes of St. Elsewhere that you remember best and thought were among the very best of what was a really well-received series?
I think a standout episode for me was the death. I did a two-part death episode where I was shot in the emergency room, and I spent 2 episodes in Heaven, Hell, and Purgatory, which was just like Arizona, Pasadena, and the soundstage at MTM. But that's where Heaven, Hell, and Purgatory is. So that... And every episode, I mean, I think they really kept the quality up over the 6 years of being on that show. I'm trying to remember some other ones. There was, you know, working with Lainie Kazan and I worked with Michael Dukakis.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. He was my patient. He was my patient in the emergency room. So I got to work with some neat people.
What can I do for you?
I was out jogging, and I think I've done something with this ankle of mine.
All right. Name?
Michael Dukakis.
And your occupation?
Governor
Governor of what?
of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Baloney. That's, what's his name?
I'm what's his name?
Look, I don't have time for this. Address?
State House, Boston.
Elliot? Yeah. This phony's for you. Tape up his ankle till his eyes bug out.
You know, the whole experience is very memorable. It was my first taste of network television series, and what the scary thing is that people watch these shows, and I would watch the show, but people watch television and actually believe everything that they watch. They have no idea that people are acting. And I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that people come up to me in the street and ask me for medical advice scares me. It scares me.
Frightens me, to be honest with you, Howie.
But they did. They think because I'm on a medical show. Well, it doesn't. I'm doing a TH for no reason because the next word doesn't have a TH in it. But I figure I couldn't get out of that thing. I'm trying to think of a word that fits, but I don't have one. Well, they have that commercial where the guy says, I play a doctor on TV. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV, so I can recommend some medication. But people actually believe. They come up to me for medical advice, and that always scared me, that they would think that I would know anything. I was just on a show. I don't know anything.
So when someone comes up to you on the street and says, Dr. Fiscus, you know, these hemorrhoids, they're really getting the best of me. What's your advice?
Have a seat. I don't know. I don't know. But the odd time, if it depends on who it is, you know, I'll grab a gland here and there.
February 3rd on Showtime, and throughout the month of February, hooray for Hollywood with Howie Mandel, taped live in concert at the Valley Forge Music Fair.
Can I also plug something else?
Be my guest.
I'll be in Miami February 9th, and then February 6th in Orlando.
So you're going first on February 9th to Miami, and then back to Orlando on February 6th?
Well, it's the Howie Mandel Dyslexic Tour.
Kind of a time warp tour.
There be.
Good night, everybody.
Join us tomorrow for Mostly Mozart from the man who became Amadeus, Tom Holtz.
From the Universal Amphitheater in Los Angeles, Dave's in Prime Time. It's a comedy spectacular with stupid pet tricks and highlights of Michael Keaton, Sonny and Cher, and Bill Murray. Plus, a very special visit from Tom Hanks. It's Late Night with David Letterman's 8th anniversary special.
Thanks for staying up later. You all know Robert Loggia from Officer and a Gentleman, from his role with Tom Hanks in Big, from Prizzi's Honor and Jagged Edge, and more recently on NBC, Mancuso, FBI. Let's just start simply because it's one of our producer's favorite clips with the scene in Big where you and Hanks are dancing around at FAO Schwartz in New York.
That was actually really quite a phenomenon because it became an instant classic, like Singing in the Rain for Gene Kelly. I guess whenever they'll show film clips of song and dance men or whatever, they'll include this clip like it was out of a great musical. But in point of fact, our rehearsal process consisted of the scene was written, of course, in the script. This would take place on this. We would be dancing on this piano, and it would light up and play notes, and we would do Heart and Soul and Chopsticks. But Tom was in New York, and I was in L.A., and they gave us a cardboard cutout of this piano that was to be built, plus a cassette of the music, and they said, work out your own choreography. So I rehearsed it in my backyard in L.A., and Tom was in New York. And then when we got together to shoot it, no one really expected us to carry it off the way we did. They had two professional dancers standing by, in fact, and they were going to shoot it from the waist down to show the fancy footwork. But when we got to the piano, it just worked. So the joy that you saw on the screen was our unmitigated joy that this was actually happening. It was so what the film caught was a happening.
Piano lessons. 3 years. Me too. Every day after school.
many people, when they see you on the street, remember you from Officer and a Gentleman? I would guess that a lot of people who saw that movie and enjoyed it didn't realize or forgot that you were in it, because by the time the opening credits hit, you're history.
Right. Well, there was a lot left out of that movie. So maybe they'll show the long version of that movie one day, because I was pretty much on the cutting room floor. There was a resolution scene with the father in the original screenplay, and in the shooting, we shot the scene where at graduation, when Richard Gere was graduated, you see the father in the stands watching the exercises, and in his dress blues. So you see the flip side of the father, from this guy who's heaving in the john and whoring around in the brothels, to a guy who's pulling duty and wearing his uniform properly and all of that. And Gere comes over to him and he wants to give his old man his first the salute. And the father said, "No, give it to the DI, Luke Gossett. He deserves it." And there were some scenes in the middle. There was a very violent scene where Gere attacks me for what I did to the mother at an air show. We shot that.
Well, how disappointed were you then?
Film, I think, made domestically around 150 million bucks. So you can't argue with success, I suppose. But I will choose to argue with success. I think it would have made more money and been a much better picture. Certainly much more in keeping with the writer's vision, Douglas A. Stewart, and the director's vision. The studio took it over and cut it their way. They felt it had to be 113 minutes because you sell more popcorn, more showings. So the integrity of the movie as to what was written and what was directed, what was acted, is out the window. Okay, that's what happened. Do I sound bitter about it? Probably. Nobody likes to be on the cutting room floor, and that happens to all actors. The father thing was extremely important. But nevertheless, I count my lucky stars, because that picture got me out of a terrific abyss that I was trapped in, of episodic television. And I had dropped out of acting pretty much between 68 and 74 for personal reasons. I was like living in a tree. And when I came out to L.A., what resurrected me, I did a play in New York called Boom Boom Room with Charlie Durning and Madeline Kahn, played by David Rabe. And I felt I could act again and do well. And I came out to L.A. and I thought had died, I suppose. And it was very difficult to reestablish my credentials as an actor. And the only avenue really was episodic television. And I played one heavy after another on Starsky and Hutch and Mannix and this and that. And it's a dead end. You're overexposed and underpaid. And I thought, well, this is not a very good career at this point. I said, well, maybe I'll direct. And indeed, I started directing on episodic television. I did a couple of Magnums, Quincy, Heart to Heart. So that when Officer and a Gentleman came along, and that only happened, another accident, because there was an impending strike. An Officer and a Gentleman was a picture that had been in turnaround. It was on the shelf. I said, well, let's resurrect something, get some product out there, Paramount. So they got Richard Gere to agree to do the picture, and it was a rush thing. I said, well, we have to find somebody to play the father. And they called me one afternoon, and I came over, and they said, we need father. You and Richard talk with one of those, see if you could be father and son. And we hit it off. And then we said, hey, let's go in and do a scene for the director, Taylor Hackford, and Lynn Stallmaster, the casting director, and Douglas A. Stewart. And Richard and I did a scene, and it was dynamite.
They tell me you were a heck of a ball player on Staten Island, which is where Bobby Thompson, who hit the home run in 1951, came from.
That's right, yeah. Bobby went to Curtis High School. He was before my time, but I went to New Dorp High School, which was always a great jock school, training a lot of ball players. And I played 3 sports. I played football, baseball, and basketball. I guess my favorite sport was baseball. I went to Wagner College on a football scholarship, played under Jim Lee Howell, by the way.
Coached the Giants.
Who went on to coach the Giants, and that was his first head coaching job. That was 1947. I was 17 years old, and there were lots of GIs on the team. So it was you know, they were 24, 25-year-old, hard-drinking ex-soldiers and sailors and Marines. It took a lot of shots, but nevertheless, I was a good ball player. Played in football. I punted, passed, and ran. I did it all. But baseball, when I think about baseball, I should genuflect because I feel baseball absolutely saved my life. When I was a kid, I was born in Staten Island. We moved to the Lower East Side of New York when I was 6 months old, on Madison Street. And my mother did not want me to be a street urchin. She was, I always had to be reading, and it was the Depression, and I had to be in the house. I was like a prisoner. And a very strong mother and a very strong father, and do the right thing. And the work ethic was very strong also. So there was no such thing as playing, really. It was reading and working, studying. And when I was 10 years old, we moved back to Staten Island. And when I think back on it, I was like a guy who knew nothing about the guys in the street and throwing a ball and catching and knocking and punching and all that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So, as it happened, I had a first cousin by the name of Danny Syracusa, who was the high school hotshot, and he came up with Bobby Thompson. He played with the Jersey City Giants with Bobby Thompson, same team. So he was on that kind of a level as a ball player. And they all said, "Hey, you're Danny's cousin. You must be a hell of a ball player too." How I turned out to be a natural athlete is beyond me. From the moment I had a ball in my hand, I could play, I could run, I could hit, I could do it all. And he was my role model. And when I went to Newark High School in 1943, I was 13 years old, and I made the varsity team the first year. I played 4 years of baseball there at Newark. And I was a hell of a ball player. I played third base.
So it saved your life more in the sense of being a socializing force for you, as opposed to keeping you away from stuff, because your mom and dad were already keeping you away from trouble.
Right.
This was a humanizing thing for you.
It was incredibly humanizing, and being part of the team and being good at it, you know. Because I had no concept of myself as one of the guys, you know. And sports did all that for me. Certainly, but there's still that dichotomy, that memory of really, I could say that when I was a kid, before 10 years old, I was like a sissy, you know, being held by my sister and my mother, and you know, not one of the guys. So there's that incredible dichotomy in my background and my personality. You know, it's strange.
Looking at some of the characters you played, especially recently, hard to think of you as a sissy.
Right?
Back with Robert Loggia. In Pritzi's honor, unless I'm forgetting somebody, you got Jack Nicholson, you got Angelica Houston, and Kathleen Turner. So you're the only real Sicilian in this mafia farce, right?
I was definitely the token Sicilian, yes. And as such, I was recruited by John Huston, what a great man. To be the advisor on the proper accent, to get Angelica to say Charlie Patana instead of Charlie. She had difficulty with her accent. And there was another actress who was a dialogue coach, Julie Bavasso, who worked on the accent as well. But I remember going through when we were in the rehearsal process of going through the script word by word to get this family of cutthroats to use the regional Williamsburg accent, you know, and to really advise people that within New York City there are regional accents from borough to borough, and that Williamsburg is a particular accent, you know. Toity-toit and Toit Avenue is the way that they speak there, and to be Italianate too, this Sicilian thing, to get Angelica to be brazen, you know, to look Charlie Patana right in the eye and say, "On the Oriental, Charlie, now, you want it?" You know, that kind of toughness which Angelica doesn't have. She's very sweet.
I heard an interesting story about how you got the role in A Woman Called Golda, the TV movie about Golda Meir, as Anwar Sadat. Yeah, well, that was an interesting story. Originally, Jose Ferrer was to play Sadat, and then Sadat was assassinated, and Jose was justifiably afraid of a copycat murder, or the danger of the situation of going to Israel to play Sadat with all the troubles in that part of the world. But I needed a job, and they called me and said, "Do you play Sadat?" First of all, I thought they were out of their cotton-picking minds. Who would have the idea that I could possibly play Sadat? It didn't feel I, at the time, was old enough or looked like him or anything, you know. So, but the next day, I was on the plane to Israel, and there was I think, a rather miraculous metamorphosis, because I think I played a very convincing Sadat. I found a way to play him. And it was Ingrid Bergman's last film. On that level alone, I'm glad I did the picture. She knew she was terminal with cancer. Although I shouldn't say she knew she was terminal, because she was fighting it at that point. And I suppose she felt she could beat it. And even though it was a very withering, painful condition, her right arm swelled up to something like 3 times its normal size. And she had to keep it elevated to reduce the swelling, and then for only limited periods of time have it held at her side. But she put everyone to shame pretty much, because she led the way to be the first there on the set. She was indefatigable in her zeal and her will to portray Golda Meir. I saw her some months later in England for the last time. I visited her at her home, and then she knew she was not going to beat it. And she seemed pretty upset at that point. She did not go willingly into that night. Upset at the defeat, did you sense, more so than at the bad hand fate had dealt her?
Yeah, she wanted to live. She wanted to work. She loved work. That the body was failing her. She was just really kind of, what kind of a trick is this, you know? I mean, she got really, that final, it was kind of a defiance. It was not a willing exit.
What is with these people? I get this bill from my new long-distance company. A month ago, they called me at home. Save big over AT&T. So I switched. Bill came, big savings didn't. Turns out they compared their special discount plan to AT&T's regular prices.
I don't understand what's going on.
Now they tell me? Come on, guys. If this is all I get, I'm not hanging around.
People who thought they could do better than AT&T are coming back for the real value. Aren't you glad you never left?
Unreal.
Today's lesson, the practical application of all that stuff you've learned in math class. Now let's start out with everybody's favorite isosceles triangle, Doritos tortilla chips. Add X amount of great nacho cheese flavor for a taste and crunch greater than the sum of its parts. I see you're confused. Follow me on this. Farmer Brown gives a huge party, okay? There are 350 bags of Doritos. There are 250 people coming. What are his chances of being cool? Excellent. Crunch all you want. We'll make more.
Feeling lonely? Don't you wish you had a little black book with the names and phone numbers of special people to talk to go out with, maybe start a new relationship? Now you do. It's your little black book. Call now. Get real phone numbers of real people who want to hear from you. Dial 1-900-446-4000. They're waiting by the phone, so don't be alone. Consult your little black book. Dial 1-900-446-4000. $2 the first minute, $1 each additional. Adults only, please.
What do you say to mustard, to barbecue? What do you say to spinach, to chili, to grass? Let the protein power of Era do the talking. And when stains come calling, you can say, scram, beat it, get lost, take a hike, you're out of here. And if you show your ugly face again, you'll get more of the same. Era reigns over stains.
What do you say, Cookie? How's your chops?
You'd pay to know.
Oh, would I ever? Oh.
Chew on that, big mouth.
I love the jugs on that, honey.
You're a class act, Nick. The much ballyhooed miniseries a couple of years ago on NBC, Favorite Son, where you played the FBI agent, spun off, in effect, at least for you, into Mancuso.
Yeah, that's kind of a phenomenon because certainly the ballyhoo was the Linda Kozlovsky and Harry Hamlin and miniseries, and it was kind of real salty, sexy stuff. And I was really the B story of it, but what happened was that this character seemed to be very popular. People liked him.
Cynical FBI agent.
You know, he was sort of atypical, sort of definitely not a plastic FBI guy like people think. You know, and it was very ethnic, very Italian, and all that, Italian American. And NBC tested the character, and it went right through the roof in terms of likability, whatever those demographic answers are.
Look, Nick, I'm getting real tired of you.
No, you look, kid. In '53, they had me catching commies for McCarthy. Now, McCarthy's a dirty word. In '60, they had me wiretapping a black preacher in Alabama. Now, his birthday is a national holiday. '71, I'm chasing COs into Canada. Then Carter gives them amnesty at a party at Kennedy Center. You've got some real simple ideas about right and wrong, kid. But this is Washington, and in Washington, they play a nasty little shell game with right and wrong. One year right is right, the next year right is wrong. And some years it's high crimes and misdemeanors. And there's one thing you can count on, that every time some big shot waves a flag, you got the cruddy end of the pole. So you just keep your head down, don't get ambitious, and maybe we're gonna slide through this thing without getting hurt.
So they became interested in it, and what happened, there was a pilot that was written, script, and when I read it, I said no, I didn't like the pilot. And then they wrote another pilot, and I said no again to that. I said no in spite of the fact that NBC had an option on my services for a series, because Brandon Tartikoff was really the first to think about this guy's a possible character in a series. So they had protected themselves. So I really didn't have the right to say no, but I still said no. So then Brandon said, finally, Bob, will you just pretend that you're the head of programming and you decide whether you want to be on the air, and we promise you we'll do everything in our power to make it right. So that was definitely an offer I couldn't refuse.
Time to get out of here and let all you folks go to bed. Our thanks to Robert Loggia and all of you, and we'll see you later.
Tomorrow night, the producing prince of primetime, Aaron Spelling, joins Bob on Later.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes. NBC News.
Thanks for staying up later. We're joined tonight by Meredith, Baxter, Birney, and there's a film of yours coming out fairly soon called Burning Bridges. You want to tell us about it?
Burning Bridges, it's difficult to talk about because when you say the idea is that it is of a woman who has an affair while she has been married for 16 years, it sounds melodramatic. It sounds like soap opera. It sounds like every TV movie you've seen about an affair. And I think puts this, in my mind, anyway, heads above that is it's so desperately honest. The woman eventually tells her husband that she's going to have that she's having the affair, not to do anything but to be honest with him because she cares about him, and because there's no bad guy within the marriage. It's just after this amount of time they've moved apart, and she tells him, and she's totally unprepared for any response from him. It's like, well, now that I've told you, I don't know. He says, what do you want? I just said, I want to keep sleeping with him. And doesn't know how to go beyond that. And it's not about she does this and he goes out and does that and then causes something else to happen. It's just the dissolution of the relationship after that, and her moving in with her lover, and the repercussions of that choice, and her fall into total dysfunction once her lover leaves her. It's a comedy.
So the lover leaves as well, so...
eventually.
She winds up throwing snake eyes.
Yes, and having to live with the result of her choices. She has 2 little children, and you see them dealing with this. This son, they're two boys, 10 and 6, and one of them is saying, what you're doing is stupid, Mom. And she's, she yells back at him.
Who's in the movie with you?
Wonderful actors. Nick Mancuso plays my husband, and Derek DeLint plays her lover, and Lois Charles plays her lover's wife. It's a heartbreaking movie. I think it's quite beautiful, and it's should be wonderfully painful to watch.
Obviously, the key is going to be the kind of texture that a movie like that has, where the dialogue goes, how well acted it is, because as you sketch it, and you can't do it justice just in sketching it in 60 seconds, people might say, as you suggest, well, it has the elements of soap opera, and it's themes that we've seen written about and talked about. So how are they going to freshen that? How are they going to provide insights or invest it with some measure of emotion that will transcend the cliche aspect of it?
It's difficult to answer that. The script by Judith Page Mitchell is extraordinarily honest, and it's almost become a cheap way to describe something, I guess. But I cannot stress that more. The people are so naked in what they say to each other. There's no artifice there. It's blunt, and nothing is premeditated, and because there are no villains, it's very much like life. You just say, this is just what it is, and yes, I did this, and I really screwed up here, and this is what's happened because of it, and I'm sorry, and there's no taking it back. It's just the road that you're on then.
Another interesting role is in a cable movie called The Kissing Place, which as we tape this will air in a few days, but as people are seeing the program, it's already been on, and it's another role that people might not associate you with based on roles you played in the past.
Yes, that's true. When I first read the script, I was reading it and I was saying, oh, well, I was saying, okay, this is about a little boy and there's his mother and oh, she's perfect. Oh, well, God, it's another perfect mother role. And the further I got into the script, I realized this woman is loony. And it's like taking the layers off an onion. You kept seeing more and more of her facade fall apart and find out how she has been acting on this child. She's stolen the child, and he is not the first. The first one, when he was about 10, started asking questions. Were we ever here? And I remember this. What? And none of the answers were satisfactory, and she offed him. So now this second child is in danger of the same peril. You don't know it. In watching it, you think really it's the child's aberration that he thinks he's remembering these things that no one can really answer, and the teacher's saying what's going on, and the mother is saying he's just, he's going through a phase, that's all. It's just a tough time he's going through.
So you had to take on a little Southern twang for this one?
Yes, but more than the twang, it was just, what I loved about it was where this woman goes. One of the neat things about acting, no matter what the character is, no matter how horrific may be the behavior of that character, you have to find something lovable within that person, because everybody loves themselves. No matter how ambiguous your feelings may be about yourself, there is some element that you believe in, and there is a rationalization for the way you behave. And she has perfect rationalization for why she is the way she is and why she's done what she's done to protect what she wants so much, which is a family. So it's the challenge is to find it and then play the role with that total commitment for who she is.
I think she believes Tommy.
No, that's nonsense.
She's probably involved the principal and God knows who else.
So what? Florence, the records will show that Tommy's been at Bright Creek the whole time. There's no other schools to check.
Well, what about us?
You're a housewife. Case closed. And I was cleared for a security job, for Pete's sake.
Let's not take chances. Please, quit tomorrow. We'll let the landlord keep the deposit. I can pack in a day. We can leave on Monday. Tommy doesn't even have to go back to that school. Edith can handle the movers. I can tell her we're part of some witness protection program or something. She will love it.
Is it fair to say that you're actively looking for roles like this that give you a chance to fill out the tapestry, because you've been so successful on television in roles that people really liked you in, playing in Bridget Loves Birney and, of course, in Family Ties, and now maybe you're looking for something that gives you a little bit more of a stretch?
Well, frankly, ever since I started acting, I've done that. It seems that in the series that I've done, I tend to play the more conventional woman. But in any projects outside of those series, I've always tried to find characters that behave differently, that we have to call on another resource. Whether they're loony, like this woman was, really just dangerously loony, or there was a lovely character, it's a film called Winnie that I'd done for NBC. It was about a woman who was mentally retarded, and it's a true story, and who wrote a book and really wanted to get it published. And it's about what her life was like in the institution. And I loved this woman. I loved her passion, and her disability didn't hamper at all her desire to improve herself. If what she wanted was really no different than anybody else. And I know no one was interested in me for that at first. I think they, oh no, she plays housewives.
Yeah, well, there was another TV movie where you played a bulimic.
Yeah, Kate's Secret. Well, that was attractive too. We're going to get to throw up on television. It's just an examination of characters. Now I know it gives the appearance of trying to get away from the Elise Keaton from Family Ties. It's less about getting away from that, but saying, I'm an actor. You know, I do a wide range of characters. I'm open to any of that. I mean, no one questioned Olivier when he played Othello. Always, you know, and I know when in the interviews that I've done for Burning Bridges, they say, you know, they want to know, was there an adulterous affair in your life? And so, well, no one asked Olivier, was he black at one time? Is that why he played Othello? Or did he want to be black at one time? It's, you know, it's about work. That's really what it's about.
Back with Meredith, Baxter, Birney. I guess this is ground that's been gone over before, but here we get a chance to talk to you for a whole half hour, so we should hit on some of the major points, and we can't let you go without talking about your mom, Whitney Blake, who was Dorothy on Hazel.
Yes.
And I had seen you on Bridget Loves Birney and seen Family Ties for a long time, and maybe I'm just a lummox, but I never knew that until a couple of years ago, and then I said to myself, geez, what an interesting connection. Did you grow up because of that, saying, I'll be like Mom, I'll be an actress?
No, I think I just sort of went into the family business. I went into what I knew. Someone asked me this at another time, and I said, if my family were in the lumber business, I'd be sawing 2x4s now. I went into what was available. Whitney and I did a wonderful show together a long time ago called, it's a TV movie called, now I forgot the name of it. The Stranger Who Looks Like Me, about a woman who was adopted. I played that character with Beau Bridges, and Whitney played the woman who was my mother, who I actually did track her down. And it was, we had a dynamite scene, which the daughter, knocks at the door and confronts her, and this woman's going, oh, I don't want this part of my life there. And it was a scene we did. We never rehearsed it because I think it was so potent, because it had so much. You know, you bring so much baggage into anything, sure. So many things, and particularly with my mother there, you know, you're saying, your subtext is, why did you let me down? You weren't there for me. I wanted you and you didn't care. And the mother saying, you're a disappointment to me. You never lived up to my expectations, all of that stuff. So we wound up playing this scene that was so, the tension was so high, we couldn't even get to the end of it in the rehearsal, and she shot out the front door, and I shot out the back, and I think it took about 20 minutes to calm us down. But it was very potent, I think. She was great.
When you were a youngster, or were you on the set, hanging around with Shirley Booth?
No, I was at school, or I was hanging around Hollywood Boulevard, I guess, I don't know.
It's a good thing, because I wouldn't have wanted you to come under the influence of whoever it was who played Harold. Because I wouldn't wanted to have seen him influence your acting technique.
No.
I'm sorry. That was an uncalled for low blow.
No, I don't think I learned at anybody's knee. I just tried it out. I think it was probably horrendous at the beginning, but I think I had a look that they liked, or a quality, and I sort of learned as I went along.
The Bridget Loves Birney series, which lasted only 1 year, despite the fact that it was doing pretty well in the ratings. It's one of those weird television things where things don't make sense, which happens quite a bit. In a way, without trying to overstate it, a little bit of a pioneer series, because it was one of the first ethnic television series. You're the nice Catholic girl, and David Birney is the Jewish kid who runs a delicatessen.
Yeah. It was a very sweet show. I think it was something that could have been about assimilation, and the attempt, I think, was to do that, but it became dangerous. I think the Orthodox Jewish community had difficulty with the intermarriage, and basically we were, I think, politicized off the air. But that's okay. We came in and, you know, made the mark and left, so that was all right.
The Elise Keaton character on Family Ties.
Yeah.
What are your feelings about having been involved with that for 6 or 7 years in a way that pretty much becomes, for the larger audience out there, because you think of the millions and millions who see a top-rated program week in, week out, that becomes your signature role?
You know, it's so... it's hard. I don't understand it. It's hard for me to appreciate that because I'm not a television watcher, and I didn't see the show. I'm really regretting that now because I think I have no concept of what good work we did. I think we were an incredibly fine ensemble group, and
it was a very good show.
I loved the acting company I was with. We had wonderful writers. We couldn't have asked for anything better. So it was really a gift in that way. Part of me wish I could go back and relive it just to appreciate it in a way I didn't, I think, at the time.
Of course, they're in syndication now. They pop up in reruns at all hours of the day and night, depending upon what city you're in, so you got another crack at them.
Yeah, I was back east in a hotel, and once in a while in a hotel, I'll turn on the television in the morning, and I caught one of the early Family Ties when Tina Yothers was about 6 or something, and of course I looked substantially younger. It was an eye-opener to see it, to believe that so much time passed within the making of that.
Yeah, I've had other actors and actresses tell me that when they did television, they didn't see the shows that often. And I found that surprising, not surprised that they weren't television watchers, but that they wouldn't have watched the shows if only to critique themselves. Now, maybe that comes from my background as a broadcaster rather than as a performer, but I'll watch tapes of ball games that I've called to critique the performance. Not so much to see the game, but to say, hey, what could I have done better here, or how would I modify it next time round? But actors and actresses aren't like that?
Yeah, well, it's hard to say. I can't speak for other actors. See, sometimes it's hard to take pleasure. This is a whole psychological thing that's probably not good to get into. It's difficult to sit and watch yourself. It's difficult for me to sit and watch myself. I want to, and I want to look for certain. I remember like certain passages. Oh, did that piece of business work? Yeah, I want to take a look at that. But it was always difficult, just time-wise, because that came at the time my kids went to bed. But I always wanted to sit and watch it. But it was hard when other people were around, and then I didn't know how to work my VCR, so I couldn't tape them. And then I'd feel guilty about taping. It's too complicated. But yes, I do want to look at my work, and I will not ever let that pass again.
When you became pregnant in real life, as they say, they had to incorporate that into the storyline on Family Ties, and sometimes that took some doing, huh?
Well, it was a fact of life that I got pregnant. Elise had to get pregnant, and it was interesting because this wonderful group of actors I worked with, they put up with a lot from me because during the pregnancy, as I was pregnant with twins, I overheated just like a bad radiator, and I would insist that they please turn up the air conditioning because I was so uncomfortable. I'd get hot flashes and I'd get dizzy, and so they finally were able to keep it at a temperature where I was wonderfully comfortable in tank top and everything, and everyone else had to wear parkas. It was so bad. They would wear sweatshirts and parkas. They go in, they go, "Damn Meredith," they go into wardrobe. They say, "Stacy, I don't know, give me another jacket. This is not enough." They have the hoods up and everything. And it was funny to me.
This is not the way it's supposed to be. There's supposed to be a doctor here. There's supposed to be a husband here. There's supposed to be a hospital here.
Look, Mom, I'm sorry that I panicked earlier. It's just that, I don't know, whenever there's a problem or a crisis of some kind, it's always you or Dad who handle it. I mean, it's a new role for me.
Well, it suits you, honey.
Thanks, Mom. Well, you've done this birth thing before, so you just tell me what you need.
For now, all I need is for you to be supportive, comforting, and strong. And if there's time, go to medical school.
It's a tradition as old as the land itself. Your country calls, and you come. Your country asks you to give, and you give. And you do it all because you believe in your country. So to all the men and women who serve, Budweiser is proud to return your salute.
Double, double your refreshment. Double, double your enjoyment. Oh, no single gum double freshens your mouth like double mint gum. Double, double your refreshment. Double, double your delight. Oh, no single gum double freshens your mouth like double fresh, double good. Come on and double it, double mint gum.
There's no single gum like it. We'd like to make a point. With this filthy piece of grungy burlap, Bold works like no regular detergent can, because Bold has deep fiber action that actually fluffs up and untangles fibers while it releases trapped dirt. So even burlap comes out clean and as soft as a baby's, well, you know, Bold, for a clean that feels as good as it looks.
Real confessions, real confessions, real confessions.
Tell me more.
Real confessions. Now hear confessions left by real people and find out how to share your confession. Real confessions.
Meeting him was like...
Real confessions. Discover what they really think, what they really do. Real confessions. Call now. Dial 1-900-990-8900. Just $2 first minute, $1 each additional. Adults only.
On the program Family, you faced an interesting situation because the Nancy Maitland character, you'd had two predecessors. Now, that happens all the time in daytime soaps, I think. I've never watched a daytime soap regularly, but I guess that the characters, especially if things on the air for a long time, someone else plays this doctor or that nurse. But in primetime shows, that doesn't happen that often.
Well, I think Family was a mini-series at first. I think they'd done 6 episodes, and there was one actress playing Nancy at that point who decided not to stay with the series. And when it went to a regular series, they hired another actress who I think they felt was too young, and then I was hired. And because they'd already shot several episodes with this second Nancy, they didn't want to have to reshoot entire shows using me. So what they did was they just kept everything that didn't have her in it and reshot those 1 shots, 2 shots, whatever it was that would feature me as Nancy. I was just blessed with a wonderful acting company. Again, Jim Broderick and Seda Thompson and Gary Frank and Christy McNichol. They're the best. They were very patient and very loving with me, trying to go through these reshoots. And Jim Broderick did the dearest thing. I remember I was almost in tears. I was so upset at the frustration of trying to make something work that I didn't understand how, and the other actress had done it, and I had to go in and shoot it her way. So I was in a blue funk. I was sitting on the sofa on the Family set in the living room, and we were shot at the Fox Studios. They're very old, huge sound stages. I sat back, I was just like this. I was looking up, and Jim Broderick came and sat down next to me. He sat real close, and he said, "See that door way up there?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "That's where we keep all the old Nancys." It was just a sweet gesture to me, and I think I loved him passionately ever after that. He was so giving and such a gifted actor, and I will miss him terribly.
Will the show go on? Next Inside Edition.
Well, Leo DeRocher was wrong. I am pleased to report that nice guys do finish first. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael J. Fox. Right.